Hello and welcome to Awakening, the blog. Today I would like to share with you some ideas about how the ego can serve us as a tool for spiritual awakening. I could possibly define the ego as you can look it up in a dictionary. Yet I would like to appeal more to how most people relate to the ego. We feel that the ego has to do with our desire to possess, to have things, to be separate from other people, to be an individual. And it has a purpose. It has a purpose of helping us to become or to be a human being with a personality. Let's just remember that personality comes from the word persona, which means a mask. And so the ego is the motor behind this mask. It moves and controls the mask, the persona, the personality. And what makes the personality, basically? What defines the personality, or the personality is defined by the thoughts, the beliefs, the emotions or the feelings, and the body. Those are the main tools of the ego to manifest itself through our wishes, our desires, our thoughts, our feelings, and the body. I believe that the main purpose of the ego is not just the manifestation of our desires and wishes, but rather that it is an amazing tool to help us develop spiritually. What I mean by that is that in order for us to become more in tune with higher vibrations, with the spiritual realms, we need to work through our lower self, which I would now refer as the ego as the lower self, and the soul or the spirit as the higher self. Actually, I would prefer to call the soul the higher self. And so, in order for us to align with the higher self, we need to work through the issues and the domain of the lower self. For most of us, this is what's happened. The ego takes power over our soul and wants to be in power all the time. It doesn't want to let go because the ego wants to believe it's eternal, but it is not eternal. It's totally impermanent. And what we need to do is to shift from the ego wrapping us around, wrapping the soul around, to the soul taking control and dominating or controlling more the ego. To do that, we actually need to work through everything that the ego represents. You know, it's very difficult to overcome a pattern, a habit, an addiction, or a mental way of thinking and seeing life. We become so ingrained in a very limited view of existence, according to what we have learned, according to what we've been trained. And so, you know, going beyond that requires a very strong energy and desire to break free from any sort of limitation. So, for us to be able to evolve, to let this higher self be more part of our life than the lower self, we need to work through everything: fears, jealousy, desires, mental patterns, habits, all that you can think of as what a personality does. A person with the characteristics that it has in its personality is basically how the ego chooses to work in this lifetime. It is not an easy task. It is not an easy thing that we can simply say, okay, I'm going to face my ego and I'm going to tone it down and then I'll be my higher self. No, no, no. It's a lifetime work, actually, because we need to be aware and pay attention to every single thought we have, our reactions. We need to observe ourselves and experience our fears and face them and start doing sort of a truce between the higher and the lower. They have to meet somewhere. Normally they meet at the heart chakra, I would say, because you know the first three chakras, the first one, second one, and third one, are more related to lower vibrations, we can say. Not that they're bad, we all need them. We need to develop the first chakra, the second chakra, and the third chakra. They are very important. But for instance, the ego in the third chakra, which is the chakra of power, of self-confidence, the ego in the third chakra takes power as something that has to do with power over something else, over somebody else. But the real essence of the third chakra is power over oneself, which is the most difficult thing to do. That's why we try to manifest the third chakra through the ego by believing that we have power over others. Politicians believe they have power over others, and obviously they have it because we give that power to them, and we can take it away from them too when we retrieve that power back to us. And so we need to work with ourselves. You know, the attributes of the higher self would be like abstract thinking that comes from the seventh chakra, obviously the perception that goes beyond what we see with the eyes, so therefore the third eye, intuition, the ability to communicate with ourselves and with others at a higher level, telepathic level, or very most subtle level, and that we are able to perceive things at a different level. And obviously the heart, where the will rests, and obviously love. But regarding love, we can have a whole video blog about the different levels of love that we can experience. And so we need to develop those subtle vibrational levels of awareness by working through what governs us. You know, it's as long as we feel separated from other, as long as we feel an individual, we are still governed by ego. It is when we feel the oneness, experience the oneness, not just believe in it, but experience the oneness by merging or simply sensing that we are all one at a very cellular level, as I have mentioned before. That's how I say when I refer to oneness, that we need experience at a cellular level in order for it to manifest in a conscious way for us. Well, until then, we are still governed by ego. Ego separates. The soul is the first step to unification, to the union of the wholeness. And that's why ego is so important. Most people just say that ego is worthless, we have to negate the ego or not pay attention to it, but totally the opposite. We need to work through our darkness, we need to work through our lower vibrations. We all have them. We all have the possibility of feeling envy or hate or you know, the dark side of values. We all have those powers or those possibilities of feeling that. Therefore, for us to go to a higher level, definitely we need to work through that. Only working through all those lower self vibrations, we can start raising our consciousness to the higher self. And we will open up to intuition and able to see things beyond our eyes, like the little prince when he was taught by the how do you say, the zorro, which is the name in Spanish. Anywho, when it says that it is only with the heart that you can see clearly. What's essential is invisible to the eye. To get there, we need to work through our lower self, through the ego and all that it involves, the personality. The personality, remember, comes from persona, which is a mask. And we all show the mask to the world. Our true self is even hidden from ourselves. So we need to face the mask that we have put on and that we believe we are that in order to start realizing who we truly are. And from there, we start being in contact with other dimensions, with other levels of life that is happening right now, but in different dimension. And we can have our attention in those dimensions when we start awakening. So I invite you to consider that, to start seeing the ego as a friendly tool for spiritual awakening when we are able to overcome all the obstacles that it offers us. You know, it really offers a lot of obstacles on the way. But when we face them and we overcome them and we find a way to go through those obstacles, we are raising our vibration. We are raising to a new level of awareness. And that's what makes it so important. It's a tool. It's not who we are. It's a tool. So if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to post them under the video inside the blog, and we will address the questions that you may have regarding this idea of how to work with the ego to awake our spiritual essence. Thank you very much, and we'll be sharing some more information about other subjects next time. Until then.